We now move over to the Middle East, where at least 9 people have been killed in a deadly attack on a courthouse in Iran's restive Sistan-Baluchistan province. The Sunni terror group Jaish al-Adl has claimed responsibility for the assault in Zahdan. 3 of the assailants died in the attack, while 22 others were injured. A toddler, a 60-year-old woman and several security personnel were among the dead. The attackers reportedly wore explosive vests and carried grenades. Jaish al-Adl says it targeted judges involved in death sentences against Baluch citizens. The group threatened further violence against Iranian judicial staff. The region is home to the Sunni Baluch minority, who say they face discrimination and marginalization. Tehran blames armed groups in the region for ties to foreign states and cross-border insurgencies. We're now joined by Irina Sukerman, who's a senior journalist. She joins us live from New York to discuss this developing story. Irina, thank you very much for joining us on the program. Irina, what more can you tell us about what we know about the group that perpetrated this terror attack, and of course about the developing situation in the Baluchistan province?
Jaish al-Adl is a group of militants that in the past has been operating in this region, but more recently they've been ramping up both the frequency and sophistication of the attacks. By more recent, I mean over the past year, they don't just target traditional military targets. They are also going after symbols of state power, judges, RGC officers, and intelligence compounds, and doing so in daylight in population centers with what appears to be a minimal fear of consequences, signaling confidence and potential external safe havens across the border in Pakistan or Afghanistan. Iran appears to be unable to prevent these attacks or to retaliate effectively, which undermines its narrative of internal stability projects abroad. And its response has been doubly ineffective because instead it's going after the Baluchis, which make up the majority of the ethnicity residing in that region, through collective punishments, which included sweeping crackdowns in local neighborhoods, arresting local activists, human rights activists, and raiding homes, imposing de facto martial law. Now, Baluchistan has been known for both apparent lawlessness, smuggling activities, sometimes drug smuggling, and assorted forms of contraband, and also fiercely independent sentiment among much of its population. At the same time, they have suffered from discrimination, crackdowns, and even discriminatory narratives from both the Iranian regime and from Pakistan government. The heavy-handed approach applied by the Iran regime added to resentment and recruitment for militant groups such as Jaish al-Adl, which by no means is the only one. Rather than isolating extremists, the regime is driving moderate Baluch communities into their arms, and this latest development, an attack on a courthouse, is exposing the widening cracks in the Islamic Republic's control over its volatile southeastern frontier. The Iranian officials labeled this incident a terrorist operation because there were civilians harmed, including a child and an elderly woman. They are framing the incident as a one-off tragedy, but the reality points to a far more dangerous trend. Insurgency in this region is no longer sporadic, but strategic, coordinated, and increasingly symbolic. The assailants reportedly posed as civilians, entered the courthouse in Zahdan, and launched grenades and small arms fires directly into judicial offices. It wasn't about accumulating as many casualties as possible as it is, for instance, for ISIS or al-Qaeda. It was more of a direct message to the Iranian judiciary and the security establishment. Zahdan is not simply a provincial capital. It's an epicenter of the long-running struggle between the Shia clerical elite of Iran and the Sunni Baluchi minority. So the institution of the courthouse is most closely associated with the regime's repression in the region, so it was not an accident that it was chosen as a target.
Irina Sukerman, thank you very much for your insight on that topic. Always a pleasure to have you on the program. However, that's